sucks.
Blew right out of the gun.
Hey everybody, this is Jason. This is Jay's Project Garage. I'm trying a new intro to the videos. I've never talked about it on the channel at all, but I do professional pyrotechnics, like city displays and that kind of stuff. I do festivals and whatever. I was really deep involved in the hobby, 10 plus years ago. I'm still really involved. I'm just not ate up about it the way I used to be. That little clip was from a convention that a bunch of buddies of mine and I went to, and we spent like 2 days making these 6-inch shells. I bought some stars, and I don't remember what they were called, but they were supposed to be like a gold flittery. I don't remember what they're called. Supposed to be really pretty stars. Mine went up and blew blind, and what that means is the stars didn't light. So mine was a complete failure. The clip is from a buddy of mine, and it blew up right out of the gun. So it made a mine. It was really cool looking, but man, it was a bummer for both of us, really. It's early. It's like 8 o'clock. I've been up since like 5:30, and I laid around and watched the news and stuff, and now I got a pain in my neck that's got 69 Mustang written all over it. So we're going to be working on it. And I got a whole bunch of other stuff that I need to do that I didn't get done last weekend. Go figure. And I don't know if you can hear it in the video, but the damn chickens are still in the shop, so I got to get them out of here because I'm over it, dude. But yeah, like I said, I got a whole bunch of stuff to get done. I did get the hub bearings and the vacuum actuators put in my truck. Huge difference. The click is gone, the growl is gone for the most part, but I'm still hearing something that may be a U-joint. I'm not really sure. It's still kind of a growl noise. I don't know if it's the road that I'm driving on. I drive down Interstate 69 every day here in Indiana. Pavement's in pretty good shape, but I've driven 2 different vehicles and I'm still kind of hearing the same growl, a little bit of a vibration, like the pavement isn't flat. I don't know. So I'm gonna crawl in my truck and I'm gonna look, check the U-joints and that kind of stuff, see if I can see anything obvious. And we're gonna drive it around this weekend because I've got to go to Lowe's and pick up stuff for the house and whatever. But I'll drag you guys along and we'll work on the 69 and maybe work on the house and work on my truck, and we'll see what we get into. Okay, this is the vacuum actuator, and you can see how the splines engage on the hub bearing. I don't know if you guys can see it on video, but this thing was full of water and rust, and that's what was causing everything to jam up. I don't know if the O-ring on the hub went bad or if the seal on the back side of the actuator went bad, but it obviously at some point let water in, and that's what was causing a lot of the problems. And I'm sure the diaphragm on the actuator is bad. But the way I was trying to explain it before, the way this thing works is when you flip the switch, the solenoid sends vacuum to the actuator and it pulls it back. I don't know if you can see that moving, but it pulls it back and it engages this to the half shaft. And it was stuck like halfway, and it was dragging either here or on the half shaft. Luckily the splines on the half shaft are fine, so I'm not worried about it at all. But when I replaced this, it took care of the noise, and the growl on the right front went away. Hopefully you guys will be able to hear this. That's the noise. That last little clip was from before. It was from last weekend before I put the hub bearing and stuff in, and that was the clicking noise that I'd been hearing. Really loud from outside. I didn't realize it was that bad from inside. It was making noise, but it wasn't horrible. So I'm sure everybody I was driving by was hearing it, and it was bad, man. We're making progress. Shut up, chickens. We got half the torque box put in. Right now we just got it kind of tacked. You can see how everything's fitting up really well. One thing you need to watch out for is when you're putting this thing in, this top half you can just kind of tack it because you can get to the outside to final weld everything. But you can see this little tab that's sticking off the frame rail. You want to make sure that this is sitting just back from it. So when you take the top and you set it on, this winds up being flush, and then the floor panel will lay right on top of it. Also, once I got the old torque box and everything all cut out, I noticed that there was a big hole here, so I patched this in. This is what was here. This is what was there before. You see how the whole bottom of it's gone? But I got all that cut out. I got all the rust ground out. I got well-through primer and everything put on there. And like I've said in other videos, we'll be able to go in and cavity wax it. We won't have to worry about rust anymore. So underneath the car, I've got the torque box all put in, and I welded it across the bottom. There's eight or nine welds just in this small area. I put the floor support in first, and I welded it to the frame rail. And then I went back and I put this over the top of it and clamped it up. And then what I did was when I drilled all the way through the torque box, all the way through the floor support and into the frame rail. That way all three pieces wind up welded together. Now we're going to put this piece in. It goes here. It'll kind of tell you where it needs to be. But you can see the thing doesn't really line up hardly at all. I mean, this is just, it's a great piece to have. I'm glad they make these, but you pretty much have to rebend everything to even be able to use them. So it's not that big of a deal. So we'll get it clamped, we'll get the holes drilled in, and we'll get it clamped up, and then we'll have to kind of manipulate the edges and stuff so we can get everything welded. One thing that works really well for me when I'm wanting to drill holes like in a separate piece, if you just got an old piece of wood laying around, lay it on the wood and then drill down through it. I don't know if you guys have ever drilled through anything, but you'll notice when you get through a piece of metal, it kind of spreads the metal out on the back side. If you do it like this, you won't have that problem. So like that, it doesn't leave like little pieces of metal or anything sticking out. It's almost completely flat across the back. So what I did was I clamped it up on the bottom, and I went ahead and put those 3 welds in. I just kind of let this fly, and I'm letting this move. So now I'll be able to go in here and I'll clamp this up, and I'll let this kind of slide around however it needs to. I get it clamped up tight, I can put those 3 welds in across the bottom, and then I can go back and just do this last one. That way it doesn't put anything in a bind, and you don't wind up with any weird bends or anything. Just do one section at a time. Okay, I clamped it up. Everything's welded here. And as I was clamping it, this end was actually moving a little bit. Now this is nice and tight. Everything's fitting up against the frame rail the way it's supposed to. Now I just got to do one plug weld, do a little grinding, and it's done. Okay, you can see how this piece fits in here. It's just basically a gusset between the frame rail and the torque box. One thing I see a lot on other channels, when guys are doing plug welds, they don't fill the hole completely in. You need to make sure you do that. If you don't, it's a weak spot in the weld, and it's a spot that can eventually tear. Something else is when I was welding this, I don't know if it was from the weld-through primer or the primer that was on the torque box, but I got a lot of porosity. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to grind this out and re-weld it. And then this whole area is going to wind up getting seam sealed. Okay, so what I did inside the torque box is I scuffed it all with a Scotch-Brite. Same thing with inside the rail. And I just used Rust-Oleum Rusty Metal Primer. It's good stuff. What I'm trying to do is I'm fixing rust. I don't want it to come back. Now this thing's never going to see Indiana winters again, but it may get caught in the rain. It may go through a water puddle. It's going to get washed. I don't want this car to rust again. You'll see a lot of other channels, and they'll do, you know, patch panels, or they'll do frame rail replacement or whatever, but nobody ever talks about corrosion protection at all. This is a super important step to me. New cars don't rust the way the old ones do because the OEs actually take a little bit of time to try to seal everything to keep the cars from rusting. That's the exact same thing I'm doing with this. I'm treating this just like I would a brand new car, and I'm just trying to treat everything. Once the torque box gets welded in, once the whole car's just about done and the bottom's all undercoated and everything, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to cavity wax everything with a long wand. But I'll show you all that when we get to that point. Okay, so you'll notice that I piled the primer in there. It's got runs in it. I don't care. It's getting covered with the top of the torque box. I was just going for coverage to make sure there's plenty of material on there. Corrosion protection is extremely important to me. I don't want rust coming back ever. If this was a Concours restoration or something, where I was trying to duplicate exactly what the manufacturer had done, then I would grind my welds a little bit differently, and I would do things, dress stuff up a little different, just to try to make it look as factory as I possibly could, and it would still get cavity waxed. Cars get washed. Cars get driven. They go through water puddles. This car is going to get driven. It's going to get driven a lot. He's talking about taking on Route 66 and all kinds of stuff. It's getting disc brakes. It's getting air conditioning. I know what he's going to put this car through. And it's never going to be up on a rotisserie or a stand or anything at some show where they're showing everything on the entire car. It's going to get driven. So that's the way I'm treating it. I'm treating it like it's going to be a daily driver, whether it is or not. I really wish this kind of stuff would show up a little bit better on the camera. But this thing isn't sitting 100% flat. There's actually a gap here, and it's not sitting exactly right on the bottom. In this, there's a big gap. Don't be super concerned. What we're going to concentrate on is we're going to find. I know this thing is sitting where it needs to, this way and this way. So I'm going to find a spot where the metal is touching. I'm going to go ahead and weld it, and I'm just going to start working my way around. This stuff is thick, so it's not like you can just take a pair of pliers and kind of twist it around. I'm going to use a hammer. I'm going to push this down, basically beat it down. But I'm going to start getting everything welded. And then once I have this secure, then I can come down here and I can put a clamp on it, and I can pull this tight. And like I said, I'm just going to work my way around the outside until everything's where it needs to be, and then we'll finish welding it. Okay, it's all welded in. I started here, worked my way down the frame rail, went to the bottom, and I made sure I moved my vice grips all the way into this corner when I clamped it. That way it pulled both pieces together, and I just worked my way around, and then the top was the last part I did. Like this weld right here, I welded it, flipped my helmet up, noticed I had missed a spot, just went back and zipped it. Don't beat yourself up too bad if all your welds aren't, beautiful. They're getting ground off anyway. Just make sure it's a good, strong weld with good penetration. Okay, torque box is all welded in. I think the next thing I'm going to do is put the cross member in. The unfortunate thing is the welds from Ford are huge. This is one of those situations where I can go up from the bottom side and grind them. Honestly, I don't really feel like laying underneath this car and getting showered with sparks and metal shavings. I'm just going to go ahead and drill them. I'm going to wind up with a fairly big hole I'm going to have to fill. I run my welder pretty hot regardless of what I'm doing. But if you're kind of a new guy, you can turn the amperage down just a little bit and it'll make filling bigger holes easier. Okay, I got it all drilled, and before I take it off, I'm going to go up underneath, I'm going to mark it. I don't know if you guys can see it on camera. You can see how the metal's all distorted where the original spot welds were. And we're going to do just a little bit of damage when we go through and we take this thing off. No matter how careful you are, you always wind up warping it or something. But once the cross member's out, we'll be able to go in here with a hammer and dolly and flatten this out. And it's important to do that because when you put the new cross member in, it's going to be completely flat and it's not going to sit up tight against the transmission tunnel. Even if you clamp it, you're not going to be able to get it 100%. So that'll be once we get this out, it'll be a good opportunity to go in there and straighten all that out. All right, I'm getting tired. I've been messing around trying to make this floor pan fit. I don't know if you can see, but this thing's not even shaped right. Luckily, I'm only going down in here. So I'm going to keep trimming on it and work on getting it fit. But the torque box is all in. It's all ground. Used rusty metal primer on it. So it's this part of it's done. Now I just got to put the floor in, and I got the cross member all welded in. I got a little more welding to do on the bottom side, and I got it fit up to the other underfloor support, so I can go ahead and start cutting that side apart. Well, another day and not getting anywhere near as much done as I wanted to. I mowed and did some other stuff, and I made some pretty decent headway on the 69. Didn't get anywhere near as far as I wanted to, but this isn't the end of the video. I'll keep recording tomorrow, but it's about 7 o'clock, and I haven't eaten anything all day. I don't know if you guys do that. You get out in the shop and start working on something, or you're working on the house, and you don't think about food, and before you know it, it's nighttime, and you got a headache, and you're tired, and man, I should probably eat something. Sharpies are great for marking stuff. I use them all the time, but I never use them on the outside of cars, and the reason why, I've been in shops where guys use these all the time to mark where they need to do body work, where they've got a low spot or something, and they didn't clean it off. I've seen it bleed through primer, sealer, and base. So the car comes rolling out of the paint shop, and you can see everywhere where the Sharpie was. I mean, it's not like super black or anything, but you can see the Sharpie bleeding through. So I don't know what the hell kind of ink they use, but the stuff's badass. Just be really careful, especially on a lighter colored car. I just don't use them on the outside of cars at all. But I mean, I'm not gonna tell you what to do. So, but I think that's a night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, it's the next morning. Had thunderstorms roll through last night, and I didn't sleep worth a damn. So I'm still tired, but I got a ton of stuff I gotta get done today. I got a bunch of running around I gotta do. I gotta go to Lowe's and Rural King and who knows. So I'm gonna be working on the 69 some more. It's starting to get kind of redundant. I mean, I'm gonna be doing the exact same thing on the driver's side, so I'm gonna find something else to make videos on, at least till I get the floors put in it. And then we'll start talking about something else. But as far as the fireworks thing goes, it's almost fireworks season. I got 3 shows to do this year. It's up. During COVID, we were down to 1 or 2 shows the week of the 4th, but this year we have 3. Normally we have like 5. But I'm still excited. It's still gonna be fun. If you guys want me to start doing more videos on that kind of stuff, I will. Whatever gets views and subscribers, I guess. But I think I had like 6 subscribers when I first started the channel like 10 years ago, and it was all for just my fireworks stuff. So I've managed to lose 2 subscribers. I think I'm down to 4, even after making all these car videos. Man, I suck. Help me out a little bit. I mean, if you get anything out of these videos, if you find them educational at all, I know they're not super entertaining yet, but I'm working on starting to become more me in front of the camera. Just like and subscribe. Maybe make a comment. Tell me how much of an idiot I am. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you next week.